You're listening to the Storm Report, your weekly insight into the Manchester Storm, brought to you by Storm TV's Maddie Finnegan.
Hello, hockey fans. Welcome to the Storm Report. This is episode 15 of your exclusive and official podcast here with the Manchester Storm. I'll give you a bit of context to this episode. Last weekend, it was Valentine's night, and the Storm suffered a late heartbreak defeat to the Dundee Stars. That one was 3-4. It finished at home. We then made amends the following night as we travelled to the Cardiff Devils and beat them 5-3 with a cheeky empty net goal. And then this was our first midweek game. We travelled up to Glasgow last night at the time of recording. That's already happened by the time you're listening to this. That was a 4-3 loss at the end. We fought hard to come back into it, and it was kind of interesting to see Evan Wenninger's return sporting that really nice helmet that we got to see. It was a really cool mask, and unlucky not to get the result there, but it was cool to see him back. I'm sure everyone was glad to see that. Now that we've got that context out the way, this podcast is going to be a really interesting one because we're going to get some exclusive insight into who the new guys are that are joining our team. We have two new players. We have David Tende, recently signed with us. He's been stellar since he came in. And then a very new signing this week of number 39, Harrison Caines. It's going to be really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to this one. I will address off the bat as well, I'm going to be flying solo. Joe Morrow's not able to make it to this one, so the Cup of Joe segment will have to wait until next week, but we're going to have a lot of fun here nevertheless. Starting off with your new Storm netminder, number 30, David Tende. David, how you doing, bud?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's been really, really mega seeing how you've come in. You've kind of hit the ground or hit the ice running, and it's been really good to see. You've given a lot of confidence to those Storm fans turning in to the Storm shelter every week, and I feel really grateful that I get to have this moment with you to ask you a bit of questions and kind of get to know the player underneath the mask. That's what it's all about for this segment. And I want to start right at the very beginning. I want to go back to that moment when you decided, do you know what? I want to play goalie. I feel like a lot of people that start out playing hockey, they want to be the one that scores the goals. But something must have happened for you where you were like, actually, I want to be the one stopping them. And kind of take me back to that moment. What was it like?
For me, it was, I actually didn't. My first sports was not hockey, which is rare for Canada. I actually played baseball and football were my two first sports. All my friends played hockey, so I wanted to get into hockey. But by the time I got into hockey, I couldn't skate, and my friends could skate, so that's how I ended up in goal.
So the good catches that we've been seeing recently is because you grew up playing baseball, not hockey. So it's kind of just another way of getting good at catching.
Yeah, I know. My grandpa played baseball, and me and him are both left-handed pitchers, so they thought, oh, maybe that would be my calling, but little did I know it was hockey at the time.
There you go, and it's a good job that you decided to go down the path of hockey. Once your friends kind of put you onto that path, was there anyone maybe when you were growing up that you were watching that you kind of looked towards, maybe looked to style your game after? Who were your ice hockey idols growing up?
At the time, it was in Vancouver. Our NHL team was very good, and our starting goaltender was Roberto Luongo. So I idolized my game more or less off him, and also our rivals were the LA Kings at the time, and their goalie was Jonathan Quick. So it was a little bit of a mixture of both for me.
It's some pretty good hockey players to look up to, some great goalies from over the years. And speaking of yourself, I want to go back. It's a question that I love asking people when they come onto this podcast. Is the moment when you started playing hockey with your friends, I assume mostly just to kind of be involved, but there must have been a moment when you realized, hang on, I'm actually stopping a fair few pucks here. I'm actually getting pretty good at this. When did you realize that you had the ability to go pro?
I think for me, it wasn't for a while. It's just like when I started off, it was just something to do. I just wanted to play with my friends. And my first year, I couldn't skate, and I was brand new. So I was playing like in the leagues below my friends. So I wasn't playing with my friends. And then all of a sudden, the next 2 years, I got really good. And all of a sudden, I was playing in the leagues above them. So I never really got to play with my friends. But for me, it was just like over the years, like I just fell in love with the game. I just enjoyed playing. It didn't really hit me until I was actually drafted into the CHL, the Canada Major Junior League. That it really hit me that I was actually a good player.
You certainly did get drafted a fair few times, and we'll speak about that a little bit later on. But I kind of want to jump in there as you say that you kind of got to learn and got to love the sport of hockey a little bit later. And I feel like that's something that'll really connect with British fans over here, because I can certainly speak from experience. My first love sports-wise was football or soccer. So I really grew up learning that game and learning to love that. And then I kind of learnt to love and learnt to play ice hockey a little bit later on in life. Do you have any sort of advice or maybe some confidence boosting for those fans that have only just learned to love ice hockey and maybe want to give it a try themselves?
It's the skating part is a little difficult at first, but it's once you get the hang of it, it's the game's so much fun. It's so quick, so fast. That's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it so quickly. Is just I never felt like there was like a quiet moment or a dull moment. You're always going, and I know I remember doing skating lessons when I was younger, and I hated them. But once you're able to get your feet under you, it's a lot of fun.
And there are a lot of opportunities now for people that might want to start getting into ice hockey, start playing themselves, as opposed to just cheering on the guys every weekend. And there's a lot of different opportunities in Manchester. I'm sure wherever you guys are listening to this at home in the UK, there'll be loads of different rinks you can go down to now. And hockey as a game in this country is really starting to grow. And I know you've only been here like a short time at the time of recording this, but I want to kind of get your grasp on what the ice hockey scene is like in the UK. What's your kind of first impressions of British ice hockey?
My first impression of it is I obviously like, but I've been surprised a couple of times. I've When I played in Florida last year, I wasn't expecting a big hockey fan base there, but I was surprised there. But my first impression was I actually when I was in Arizona, I played with a guy my age named Liam Kirk from the UK, and he was he's an unbelievable player. I'm not sure where he is this year, but I remember thinking, "Oh wow, he's a really good player." I wasn't expecting that from. I didn't think there was much hockey over here, and then when I finally landed over here and seeing the fans and going to different places and different cities, I'm like, "Wow, this is really popular here," and I love the fan interactions during the game. It's a lot more lively than it is in North America. It's really fun to play in and watch.
I think the culture around ice hockey and British ice hockey is kind of growing its own identity, and it's really interesting to kind of be a part of and also witness. So I have to agree with you there. Seeing all the fans turn up and bring their own element to it is really interesting. And I think the growth of British ice hockey has Kirk to thank in a lot of ways because he's that big name player that kind of people that are young looking up into the sport of ice hockey kind of get to aspire towards, and he can be an inspiration for younger British ice hockey players. And it's really cool that you almost get to grow up and be a part of that now over here. There'll be people that turn up to the storm shelter. Maybe they're thinking about giving goal a try, and then they go to the storm shelter on a Saturday night and they see David Tende and he's making loads of stops, and everyone's kind of going, "Wow, that's really cool. I want to be a part of that." What's your reaction to being part of the growth of ice hockey in the UK now that you're here?
I think it's very cool. I think it's an opportunity for just obviously for me, just being in a new place, a new city, a new country, and seeing all these new faces and seeing the excitement they have towards the game and seeing more and more people. I feel like show up every game, and that includes all of our away games too. Like it's I don't know if I have like concrete feeling about it, but it's very like it's like uplifting and exciting. I think is the word I would use for it.
That's good to know. I'm sure the fans listening at home will be glad to hear that they have that impression and that effect on you because They definitely are going to be getting behind you now that you're one of us, and now that you're doing so well in net for the Manchester Storm. But I want to kind of go a little bit further back. We'll come back to your time here with the Storm. I want to go back because I did mention earlier the fact that you've been drafted a fair few times. Obviously, most notably was when you got drafted into the NHL, and that's not something that everyone gets to say that they had. That's not an experience that everyone has in ice hockey. So I want you to kind of this is your chance to kind of say what that's like. A lot of people have dreamed it, but you've actually gone through it. You've been drafted. Tell me what that was like for you.
Honestly, it's like every Canadian, every young child in Canada's dream to get drafted. I'm sure it's a big deal over here now too, especially with the growth of the sport. But for me, it was kind of interesting. I would say I was one of those players I was on the bubble, sort of say, and like I wasn't sure. I was thinking about going to the draft. I was thinking I wasn't too sure, so I stayed home. And I know my dad was very into it. He was watching the whole draft, watching the whole day, and I was just like I couldn't sit there any longer. I couldn't really think about it, so it's a little bit nerve wracking. And then so I decided to go read a book on the deck. It was a nice summer day in Vancouver. Then all of a sudden my phone rings and it's the Arizona area code, and I got the call, and it was just like it didn't really kick in really. It just was like, oh wow, like I got drafted, and all of a sudden a week later you're down in Arizona, you have the Arizona apparel on, and you're about to walk on the ice in the NHL arena, and then it's just like once you're on the ice and you're around all the coaches, the players, and just seeing it seems like the the seats just you look up and the seats just don't seem to end, and it's just that's a surreal moment, and that's where for me that's where it hit.
Take me to, you say you don't quite, the weight of what's happened didn't quite hit you in the moment, but when was like the first moment you realize, and when those emotions hit, you get that phone call, and I assume you knew what the phone call was when you saw the area code for Arizona. So tell me, take me into that moment, those emotions, maybe the increased heartbeat or something. You're in the draft, you've been waiting all day for something to happen, and then all of a sudden you're out on the deck, you get that phone call. What's going through your heart and going through your head?
At that moment, it's interesting. Like you're not really sure. Like it's a lot of uncertainty. Like you get the call, you're drafted, then like you're kind of just there. You don't know what's next, and then all of a sudden you're sending your passport information over to them, and just all of a sudden you're getting all these like texts from your friends and teammates, and your phone's blowing up. It's just so much information at once. Like you're just excited. Your parents are excited, whoever you're with, and like everything's moving 100 miles per hour, kilometers an hour, and and then all of a sudden, when like I said, it's like once you're like there and you're wearing the jersey, and then you're like, oh wow, like this is really happening.
And then all of a sudden you're a part of the organization. You're playing in the AHL, you're playing in the ECHL, and I kind of want to know how those different leagues stack up. You've played 7 games over here now, and I kind of want to get a grasp from you of if you've played enough games, you think to work it out. What are the differences between hockey in North America and hockey over here in the UK to you?
Uh, the difference is definitely the rink size, the ice surface. Um, in North America, it's a smaller rink or smaller like ice surface, so the game's a lot more compact. I would say there's a lot of like board battles. There's a lot more like hitting and like chipping, and like it's not there's not a whole lot of skating. But once you get over here and the ice surface is bigger, like things just open up. It becomes a lot more of a possession game. Um, Guys hold on to it longer. Guys have a lot more time and space. You really got to be aware for um, like backdoor threats, and it becomes a lot more of like a tactical game where it's just in North America, it's a little bit more stick your nose to the ground and just run through a wall. Where here it's a lot of speed, a lot of skill, a lot of like the real like beauty of like the skill comes out over here.
That's really cool to hear. It's a perspective that you don't normally get to hear in like kind of like the comparison, because a lot of the players in this league come over from those leagues. So to kind of have that transfer and learn to play a totally different style of hockey is really interesting to kind of hear about. I want to go a little bit more specific now and ask you about yourself in the Storm shelter. It is notoriously a difficult hockey rink to play in, and you've had enough training sessions, you played enough games there now where you've had a couple of awkward bounces off the sides, especially that one end down by the Zamboni doors. Like, what do you make of the Storm shelter as a place to play hockey?
It's fun. I quite enjoy the different rinks. Uh, Playing throughout my pro career, just especially the Storm shelter, like all the fans are over top of you. There's a everything's loud, like the chants are very loud in there. The boards, obviously, there's been a few bounces, but I quite like it. It makes things very very interesting. It keeps you on your toes, but I think for me, it's just really exciting to experience that. And I think it's for me, it's just been almost like an extra incentive to figure out how to be successful in this environment.
It's definitely a hockey rink where you need to have your wits about you and you need to be paying attention at all times. You need to be focused. And I say the word focus because I know that on the commentary team, myself and Max Artis, and then also when I've been watching the away games, the away commentators pick up on it too. You seem to be so incredibly focused in net. There's very little erratic movements unless you absolutely have to. I mean, even when you do that, you still make the saves. But I want to kind of get into your head in those moments and how you manage to stay so focused out there on the ice, especially in the Storm shelter when there's so much to think about all at once. All those fans are on top of you. As a goalie, it's a really important position. How do you keep your focus out there?
For me, it's definitely like this is my 5th year pro. I would say the experience is starting to show. It wasn't always like that for me, especially over the years. I found strategies and mental tricks to help me stay focused. And obviously, when we're talking about the Storm shelter, that's definitely a mandatory for my position. Also, it's just like me. I love like playing the sport. I love playing goal. And I love stopping pucks, so it comes natural. It comes. I want to do it. I want to. This is my. Whenever I throw in the mask and throw in the jersey, it becomes my top priority, and I I just enjoy it.
That's good to hear. I want to kind of go a little bit more in depth into those moments where you learn how to maintain your focus. You say that now in this stage of your career, you've learned it, you've got it, but you mentioned that you didn't always have it. So can you remember certain moments in your career where you maybe learned a strategy or two or learned something that kind of keeps your head in the game? Say a big goal's been conceded and you have to kind of get yourself back in the headspace. What's like a big moment where you learned to become the goalie that you are today?
I actually want to say there's a whole lot of like big moments. It's always been little things throughout the years where like different games, losses. Like I think a big part of goaltending is part of the game. Part of being a goalie is getting scored on and losing sometimes, and it's a lot of that's just having to deal with that, having to understanding that there's just sometimes where it's you can do everything right and it's just gonna go in. It's just how it works, and obviously having that in the back of your head, it's not ideal because you need to be focused on stopping the puck. But for me, it's just like anything you do, everything. It's just trial and error, and once you catch something that seems to work, you use it until it doesn't, or it it seems to work for me. When you talk about me being focused, my focus is only really on my end. Um, my job is to at least keep the game close and get the boys a chance to win the game. So for me, like especially in the first two periods, like it's for me, it's just I don't really watch the other end. It's I'm just more like with the experience, like you got all this information, but with the experience comes into play, you only like you realize you only really need to focus on like a few things. So those are the few things I focus on, and once the puck does come out of the opponent's zone, and then I'm ready, I'm fresh, my brain's fresh, and I think I'm getting off topic here, but
No, it's a good answer. It's a good answer. I like the fact that it's almost, yeah, a different perspective. It's not something that I would have imagined hearing from you. The fact that, like, in order to keep yourself fresh, you sometimes you don't pay attention to what's going on the other end of the ice. It's something that the fans are always looking one side, and if the puck comes back the other way, it's like you're watching tennis, or the heads switch over to your side. And how you're able to keep your focus by doing that, that is a really good answer. Keep going.
yeah, especially if the ECHL where it came from, there's 3 TV timeouts per period, but here it's you're just playing, and I think that's a one of the bigger differences I've noticed, and it's in the past I've used those as like mental breaks, but here it's you really gotta be dialed in the whole period. You gotta find little times to rest your mind, and so when you really need your mind, it's fresh.
That's cool. It is interesting hearing about like the perspective of a goalie. If you're listening at home and you aren't aware of one of the previous weeks, not too long ago we had another chat with Alex Oldale, and he kind of shared an experience of what it's like to be in net as well. So it's always really interesting to hear those experiences. You definitely go and listen to that one after you've listened to this podcast, because hearing a goalie's point of view is always so interesting. I'll go back to something you mentioned a little bit earlier, in that you kind of learn certain things over your career and it kind of leads to who you are now. And a question that I had written down is about maybe pre-game routines, something to get yourself in the headspace to begin with. We've spoken about how you stay in that headspace, but is there anything, maybe a certain music genre, a certain thing that you do to get into the routine and kind of be in the right headspace before puck drop?
Yeah, I'm a big I grew up on this because of my dad, but I'm a big classic rock guy. I love like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, like the Stones, all those type of bands. I don't listen to Pink Floyd before games, but I really like listening to like Led Zeppelin and high tempo songs that get my mind and internal clock really up to speed, internal motor up to speed.
There's a chance before, or in the pre-game warm-ups, where the players kind of get to play their own songs, and the DJ kind of gets to play what you guys want to listen to. Have you been able to get in there and have your say yet?
I That's the first time I've heard about that, so we'll see
Right,
in the
okay.
future.
Well, let's say she's called Connie. Shout out to Connie if she's listening to this, but she'll be the one out there on the DJ this week. Is there a certain song that would help you get in the frame of mind that she could play for you out there?
um,
Go to hockey song. What are you choosing?
my go-to hockey song. On game days, like I said, my like top two bands I listen to are probably a little bit more metal than classic rock, but is Rush and Black Sabbath. So I love the song Iron Man. So
There you go. Well, Storm fans, when you are in the arena later this weekend, I want to see everyone ready to rock as we have David Tende playing for us. That's going to be interesting for sure. Last week we had CJ Garcia saying that he had a pre-game meal that he had to have every single time before he played, and he always had to eat pasta, otherwise he couldn't play. Is there any sort of strange, quirky thing that you have to do before a game, a sort of tradition that you build up over time, or is that just him?
um, I'm a little bit more relaxed on that. I have my quirk is kind of like the opposite end of that. I try to like my whole goal is like not. I don't know if it's just like how the stereotypes of goalies being really quirky, but mine has always been try to be opposite. Like I try to like mix it up on game day. There's obviously like the general like I need my carbs and protein and fruits and veggies, obviously, but I like to try and mix it up, and um, I almost use it as a brain exercise before the game.
There you go. Get the brain involved. That's a cool response. I like that. Before we wrap things up with this first interview of the podcast, I have some kind of more general quickfire questions that I wanted to try out with you, of just to get some insight into your career and further into the person that you are. Starting out with career, I want to ask if there's a certain standout moment in your career. We might have already spoken about it with getting drafted and that phone call out there on the sun deck. But is there anything that stands out to you so far in your career that's like, that's a highlight I'm going to remember for a long time?
I think for me, it would have drafted for sure. I think for me, I was lucky enough to be a part of a championship team last year and seeing the whole process of going through playoffs and the season and seeing what it takes to win and the mindset, and almost been given a blueprint on how to do it. And I think for me, that was a huge part of a big moment in my career, because I know there's a lot of players who never get to experience that, and for me being fortunate enough to experience that, I'm really happy I got to.
What are some of the things that David Tende likes to do in his downtime? When you're not out there on the ice, what's some things that you enjoy doing?
I like to read. I read a lot. I've gone into that the last couple of years. During COVID, I used to play some video games. I used to have a console, but I noticed I'm quite competitive. So I noticed that before games and stuff, I would like I just like enjoyed the competitiveness playing that. It kind of I noticed it was a little bit of a time waster, so I got rid of it and I took up reading. And I was never a big reader growing up, and just getting to read my first book and realizing how a different satisfaction comes with it, and learning new things and how much you can learn from books. That really caught my attention. But I don't just come home from the rink and read until I go to bed. But I like doing that. I love talking, hanging out with my fiance. It's a big part of my life, and those are definitely the two big things off the ice.
Oh, I'm surprised I haven't heard the G word yet. Golf. A lot of hockey players always revert to that as like the go-to thing when they're not on the ice, they're on a golf course somewhere. Is that not your game?
A little bit in the summer, I love golf with my friends back home. During the year, I don't usually have my clubs, um, so I don't usually get to go out and play. But in the summertime, yeah, I enjoy I enjoy golfing.
If you're comfortable playing without your regular clubs, there are a lot of guys out there on this team that would take you golfing. I'm sure there's some pretty competitive golfers out there. You said you were competitive when it came to gaming. I guess that's a good trait to have as a professional goalie in ice hockey. But yeah, reading seems more relaxed. So good for you. What advice, if you could give maybe three pieces of advice to young goaltenders out there that might be listening to this, what would you have to say?
I think the number one thing, I think I mentioned it briefly earlier, was like you're gonna get scored on, you're gonna lose a couple games here and there. It's just about sticking with the process and enjoying the ride, because next thing you know, it's you're playing pro, and it's like there's times when I do miss junior, where I missed like the fun and being young, and I think I was a little too serious at sometimes. But I think just enjoying that process would be the number one. Number two would be actually positive talk. I think goaltending is weird because it's pretty much all mental, and being positive and believing in yourself actually is a better way to put it, is is a large part of the game. It's believing in yourself is by far the best thing you can do is being a goalie is believing in yourself and having fun. And it's not fun when you're not doing that. The third thing, skating. I know skating's boring, but a large part of the game, especially over here, it's the game's quick, the game's fast. You gotta stay up the pace.
There you have it. Enjoying the process, taking the time out to be good at skating, and always believing in yourself is something that people can kind of take into their lives as they try to be a goalie, but also believing in yourself and enjoying the process is lessons that people can learn just in broader life as well. David, you've been here for 7 games now with the Manchester Storm, and you've had a very impressive 93, as we have it over here, save percentage. One of the kind of final things that I want to ask you is it's almost similar to the last question, but just in your opinion, what makes a good goaltender? What are the characteristics of a good goalie?
I think number one thing is being calm, but being calm in a way which is believing in yourself is one way of being calm, but also I notice this for any types of goaltenders. It doesn't matter if you're a football goaltender or you're a lacrosse goaltender. Is believing in yourself and waiting for the shot to happen. You can't stop the puck unless you know where it's going. So waiting for the release, seeing it through time and space, and then seeing it into your body is maybe my top universal for being a goalie. So no guessing, being still when the shot comes, believing in yourself, enjoying it because enjoying it helps you keep relaxed. And yeah, I guess I give you 4, but
No, it's good, and hopefully you continue to enjoy it for throughout the rest of the season here with the Manchester Storm. And that's kind of going to be my final question for you. Is we look to try and climb up the standings. That's kind of the goal for the rest of the season now. Every single game is a big deal. So, what do you have to say to the Storm fans specifically to kind of get them to keep turning up, keep cheering you guys on every weekend?
come on and watch us. I know obviously I wasn't here at the start of the year. I know it's been a lot of ups and downs this year, but I think you will enjoy the end. So recommend you come and watch.
I like that. I like that. Short and sweet. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, David. It's been interesting kind of getting to know a little bit more in depth about your journey through ice hockey. And something that stood out to me in this interview is the kind of almost psychological element of goaltending. So often when you're watching hockey, fans can kind of get all wrapped up in the shooter and kind of just say, oh, it's either been saved or it hasn't. But kind of getting into the psychology of sometimes they're gonna go in and you've got to be okay with that in order to kind of move on and reset has been a really interesting insight for me personally. And I hope that you listening at home can kind of feel that as well. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you back in net for the Storm this weekend, and yeah, thank you for your time. I hope you're enjoying this podcast so far. If you are, then feel free to leave it a positive review, maybe a like or a comment over on YouTube. Do you know what? I'll set a like target. If we hit 20 likes, we can bring back the Cup of Joe segment next week as Joe Morrow will return. But yeah, no worries on that one. For now, though, it's the second half of the Get to Know the New Guys podcast. And joining me now is your new number 39, Harrison Caines. Harry, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. Super happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
No worries. It's good to have some new blood, some new people to talk about, and some new journeys to kind of get involved and understand. And that's kind of where I want to start this. I want to go back to the beginning. We did this with Tende earlier. We're going to do this with you now. I want to go back to the very beginning. I'm going to talk about what got you into hockey. Was there a specific idol that you had growing up, or kind of what led you to pursuing a career in ice hockey?
Yeah, so my dad got me into it ever since I was pretty much born. So since I was 3 years old, he threw the skates on me and kind of taught me everything I know. And I guess yeah, I definitely idolize my dad for sure, as he was a great hockey player. Played pro for a while. Was drafted by the New York Rangers, so was definitely always inspired by him and the things he taught me growing up. Still stick with me to this day. So. my dad for sure.
It's not bad having someone like a dad to kind of help you learn everything as you go along and kind of teach you when you're growing up. That's a pretty cool idol to have. Is there anyone like you say like himself that you would say you style your game after?
Yeah, I'd say I can compare myself maybe to like Kyle Connor, like on Winnipeg. I try to model my game after him at least, and like speedy winger, great hands, and yeah, I look at things he does, and I try to implement it into my game as much as I can for sure.
So take me into what it's been like to live in your shoes in this past week because I like using the analogy when I was preparing for this interview of the Four Nations tournament. When the Four Nations tournament started and Canada were playing their first game, you were in Canada. And now at the moment of recording this, the final hasn't even been played yet and all of a sudden you're on the other side of the world. So tell me what that's been like for you this past week.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Everything kind of happened so fast, and one day, like you said, I was in Canada and in my, at my university, and then the next I got a call, and I'm in Manchester. So honestly, just overall, everything's been like just excitement and thrilled to get on the ice, and it was awesome meeting the guys. There's a great group here, and the fan base has been phenomenal so far since I've been here. Just meeting people in the street or through social media so far because it's only been a few days, but everyone's been super welcoming. All the coaches and management, like everyone's been great to me. So yeah, everything's been great overall. Like no complaints. It's been great so far.
Well, that answers one of the questions I was going to ask, which is what are your first impressions? So that's good. I'll kind of ask you because hockey's quite a small world. That's one thing that I've discovered since being involved with this podcast. Is there anyone that you either knew in the league or maybe even on the team before coming out here?
Yeah, I had a few guys I played with that also are from like the same town or played with previously that are on the team. But no, I had a cousin as well, Mitch Jones, who played in Glasgow. And he played there for about 2, 3 seasons, and he really enjoyed it. So he really helped me throughout the process of coming over and just like getting new information about the league and stuff like that. So yeah, he was a great guy to have, great asset to kind of lean on and ask different questions about kind of how the process is of coming over here.
Talk to me about that decision process. Why the Elite League? Why Manchester?
Yeah, so there's a lot of imports in the league too, right? And a lot of Canadian guys, and I felt like it's an English league, like it's easy. It'll be a bit of an easier transition. The hockey's great. There's a lot of speed. The league just keeps getting better and better, and I just heard such great things about moving to the UK and the city and yeah, in the city in Manchester particularly. Like I researched it and just heard how beautiful it was and how great the people are and stuff like that. So it was, like I said, it was really like a no brainer for me to come over here and join the team.
That's lovely to hear, man. What would you say, this being your first professional contract, I feel like congratulations are in order, but also on this pro team, what on the ice are you hoping to learn for the rest of the season? Maybe something off the ice as well that you're hoping to do.
Yeah, no, I like I said, there's a great group of guys there here. So just learning from each guy that just the way they handle themselves so far that I've seen, and just how professional each and every player is on the team. Got a really warm welcoming from CJ Garcia here, and he's helped me out a lot so far since I've been here. So shout out to him, and yeah, he's just kind of just taking everything that I can in, and maybe learning as much as I can from the older guys, and how professional they are on and off the ice, and just kind of, yeah, taking that all in for sure.
Good luck to you for that. I hope that you can learn a lot and really thrive here in Manchester. Now that we've kind of spoken about you touching down and you're just about over the jet lag you told me before we started recording, give the fans a sense of what they can expect from you. If you were to summarize yourself as a hockey player, what do you like? What can the fans expect?
Yeah, I bring a lot of speed to the game. I like to play, both ends of the ice. I take pride in my D zone. Love playing in the O zone as much as I can. So um, hopefully get a lot of offensive chances, and make some plays. And I've also always played on the power play. So if that opportunity ever comes about, I've always kind of the last couple of years tailored my game on that and took pride in that as well. So yeah, those things kind of my game is a summary of my game so far. Yeah.
Would you also describe yourself as someone that's a hard worker, willing to put the work in? And I ask that because I found out that you were, after traveling with the team, I'll ask you about this in a second, traveling with the team to Glasgow, you were up very early this morning to make sure at the ice to get some practice in. So, kind of talk us through your mindset in that aspect and wanting to work hard for the team.
Yeah, no, I think it just goes back to me just being like so excited to be here, and yeah, I've always been also a hard worker. I take pride in getting on the ice as much as I can, and when Coach Mike told me that there's ice, I know it's late and everything like that, but there is ice tomorrow morning. I kind of jumped on it because I've only been on the ice once prior to that since I've been here, and I think it was a good opportunity to just keep as much as I can get on the ice and get my skating legs to the best of their ability.
That's good to hear. That's definitely good to hear. Talk to me about that Glasgow trip then, because traveling with the team, you really kind of get a sense of the guys in the locker room, the guys that you're going to be fighting out there with, and trying to get those 2 points every night. Tell me what that's been like for you, that whole experience in Glasgow.
Yeah, it was great. Just getting on the bus with the team and traveling with them and seeing, like I said, like the processes and everything they go through, and how professional they are, on and off the ice, and just looking at their routines. Maybe it's prior to warm up or on the ice, certain things they do. Just yeah, partaking in that I think was really special for me, just to kind of get a sense of the hockey, the league, and then the process of traveling on the road. So yeah, it was great. I was happy I was able to do that.
Well, hopefully you can start to put that into practice on the ice sooner rather than later. Just before I let you go, I want to ask you some quick questions to kind of, they're just more generic questions. We tried this with David Tende earlier in the episode, just to kind of get some first impressions for you and kind of figure out who the person is under the number in the shirt. Tell me about what gets you in the mood for the game. Is there a certain like song or certain pre-game routines that you do to kind of get yourself in the headspace to go and compete?
Yeah, just before the game, I have like a personal warm up after we do our team warm up and stuff like that that I've always kind of stuck with. It's been a routine, like the same stretches and dynamic warm up. And I'll usually listen to music while doing that. So that kind of gets me ready, gets me fired up, and gets the legs going before I take warm up.
Are you at all superstitious about putting on equipment? Do you put it on the left side before the right side? Anything like that? Sort of shoelaces?
Yeah, I used to be super. I used to be. That's funny play on words there, but I used to be superstitious. But I kind of tailored away from that. I find it can be a little distracting for me sometimes. So ever since I just kind of stick to the same routine, whether it's like warming up at a certain time before the game, eating certain meals. I'll usually eat pasta and chicken before the game. So I guess maybe that could be a considered superstition. But no, yeah, I kind of got away from superstitions.
I wonder if that pasta tradition before the game is going to start to become a regular thing. You won't believe this, but the man that's been welcoming to you since you came in, CJ Garcia, on last week's episode said that he can't go into a game of ice hockey without eating pasta beforehand. That's kind of his pre-game quirk. So it's interesting. Maybe he's going to get you onto it. Who knows? But yeah, no, I look forward to seeing you take to the ice, man. It's going to be exciting, and everybody wishes you well. I guess the final thing that I want to ask you is fans of Manchester Storm, as you get here, you'll learn more about ice hockey culture in the UK and in Manchester specifically. But there'll be a lot of guys in that arena on Saturday that have dreamt of putting on the jersey and stepping out there as part of the team. And they're going to be cheering you on and trying to live that dream through you. What can you say to those fans and fans of the Manchester Storm before you make your debut with us?
Yeah, like I said, it's just like the way you're describing that kind of gives me goosebumps just because how excited I am to play my first game and play for them and play for the city and play for the whole organization. Yeah, like I said, they've been great so far. Like I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me through social media. I know I haven't met most of them yet or anything like that, but I'm really excited to do so. And yeah, I can't wait till my first game here and play for them.
Well, it's not too far away. At the time you guys will probably be listening to this podcast, the puck drop for the Fife game is not too far away at all. And it's your chance to give a nice warm welcome to Harrison Caines as he steps on the ice for the first time in Storm gear for a game. Make sure to get on down there if you haven't got your tickets already. I look forward to seeing you all there. For now, though, thank you very much for listening. And most importantly, thank you to David Tende for earlier. And thank you, Harrison Caines, for joining me on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Thank you so much. If you like this, why not give it a review, a like, or a comment? Thank you very much for listening. Take care.
That was the Storm Report, brought to you by Storm TV. Tune in next week for more exclusive insights. Tickets on sale now at manchesterstorm.com.